Welcome to All About Breastfeeding, the place where the girls hang out. I am Lori Isenstadt, IBCLC, host of the All About Breastfeeding podcast, and I help moms with breastfeeding. Today on Friday's Breastfeeding Bites, we are going to talk about grandparents and breastfeeding. So I'm glad that you can join me for today's show. Today we are going to be talking about grandparents and how they can best support the new mother in the early days of newborn mothering. These tips will also be good for new parents to hear so they can apply it to their relationship to their parents or their in-laws. To the grandparents, you can feel really good if you received a link to this show from one of your kids. Don't be insulted. This means that they really do care about you and are already thinking positive about ways in which you can all enjoy each other's company and get along and help support each other when the new baby is born. And they only want the best. Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty of newborn parenting with grandparents in mind. To the grandparents, I need for you to get into the mindset of new parents, particularly new mothers. New mothers, we can be pretty sensitive. For some, we feel it's a sign of weakness to ask for or to accept help. I know that I did. Perhaps the new mother, maybe she's trying so hard to convince everyone that she's got it all covered and can take care of everything, and she does not want to accept any help from you. Remember that you're the grandparents, and I know you really want to help with your grandbaby. You want to hold your grandbaby, feed, rock, diaper changes, hold a fussy baby, give advice on how to help with a fussy baby, perhaps even feed the baby milk from a bottle. But try hard to wait until you are asked. For some new mothers, well, they could resent you just taking over. That's how they would look at it. By the time we have our second baby, we're pretty much like, here, take her, hold her for as long as you want, change your diaper, do whatever you want. I'm with the new baby. But you know, with our first baby, having grandparents just seemingly take over, it tends to make new moms, make them feel inadequate. It's as if they're telling the world that they're not a good mother, that they can't take care of their baby. Silly, perhaps, but common, absolutely. It just is what it is. I know it might be hard, but take a step back and follow her lead. Grandmothers, keep in mind that you were a new mother once too. To help you get into the mindset of the new mother, let's try something. I'd love for you to spend some quiet time reflecting on what life was like for you as a new mother. Take some time one evening, even just a plain piece of paper on the computer, or better yet, buy yourself a pretty journal and start journaling. Write down, what do you remember about the first month of you being a brand new mom? Try and pull back and get those memories in the forefront. Do you remember, were there people who said or did things that made you feel inadequate, made you feel dumb? Did you feel like that all the way on your own? Nobody even had to make you feel that way? Did you have a lack of confidence? Do you remember anybody during pregnancy, birth, or postpartum days saying anything that was hurtful to you? Sometimes those hurtful words we can remember 40 and 50 and 60 years later. Think about who supported you in the early days of mothering. What did that support look like for you? What did they do to most help you? What did they say that was helpful? Did you get meals delivered to you? Did someone come to your house and cook for you? Did that feel good for you? Was that helpful for you? How about house cleaning? Did you have someone come in and say, this house is so messy, and start cleaning up around you? Were you happy for that? Were you grateful? Or did you resent that? Did that make you feel uncomfortable? If you didn't get the help you needed, tell me, What are a couple of things that you would have wanted that would have really helped you in those early days postpartum? Write it down, contemplate, think about it. This will help you get in the mindset of the new mother. Now that you've refreshed yourself on what it's like to be new parents and that you understand how helpful it will be to be a good listener, start thinking about newborn parenting and how things might have changed since your time as a new parent. One of the biggest things that new parents have a hard time getting grandparents to understand is this: things have changed. They're trying to tell you things are different since you've had your kids. And they're trying to say, I'm not saying that your way is right or your way is wrong and that I'm right. Rather, I'm trying to say, here's what we've learned and I want to try it this way. If it's not working, perhaps I'll ask you. But don't argue with the new parents about the way it used to be in your day and that worked better. Before the baby's born, ask the new parents. This is a great tip. Ask them, what is one good baby book that you could read to help you understand and learn about newborns? Because just tell them it's been quite a few years. I would have kissed the ground that my mother-in-law walked on if she humbled herself and asked about what would be a good book to read about newborns. Grandparents need to realize that times have changed, and along with it, there are many aspects of parenting that are the same as 20 to 30 years ago. But there are also enough changes along the way to warrant you learning a few things. You will likely read new things about sleeping, eating frequency, things like tummy time that you may have never heard about, positions to lay down to sleep, lay the baby on the side, on the back, even about car seat safety, vaccinations, safety with medications, and circumcision. You will learn that not everything is so black and white. You will also learn that new parents are working hard to be partners in their baby's health care. They have learned to ask questions. They Google stuff, and you may be Googling things, Dr. Google, Dr. Web, Dr. Med. Do some reading and research. You do it, and new parents are doing it on their own also. You may have come from a generation where you just did what the doctor told you to do and didn't question. This generation, different. And while it might drive you crazy, you need to respect this. Think of it this way. Reading a book on newborns that the new parents recommend is like being given a gift. This will help grandparents to learn what the parents know and what they want you to know. It will help you to understand why the new parents might be making certain decisions. It will help them learn not just what is different, but the rationale behind the difference of opinions. So, how can you best support the breastfeeding mother? The very first thing you can do is to heed advice on what to not do or say. I don't usually say this, but trust me on this next bit of advice. On a daily basis, I meet with moms who tell me they hate hearing the following advice from grandparents. Nothing makes them want to hide from you more than hearing these common statements. When you say, "Are you feeding the baby again?" Well, yes, breastfed babies feed on an average of 8 to 9 times every 24 hours, and feeding times can last up to 35, 45 minutes to an hour. So if you figure they're doing that 9 times a day, feeding the 24 hours, if you're hanging out with them for the day, it's going to seem to you like they're always feeding the baby, but it's the last thing she wants to hear you say to her. The next one is, "He's so fussy. He must need some more food. Perhaps you should give him some formula." Well, formula-fed babies that you can see how much they took, and you know that they're probably not even hungry. Frequently, people don't offer moms who are feeding their babies formula or even breast milk in a bottle to say that they're crying and they must need more milk, because they can measure it and see. So they start coming up and being creative. Well, that's what you want to be with the breastfed baby. Don't assume that just because you can't see the volume of milk going in, that that breastfed baby who's crying needs more milk. It could be other things. Babies cry for many other reasons. Another thing that most new mothers hate, for you to say, oh, you know what, let me take the baby tonight in my room so you can get a good night's rest. No. Moms do not want to be separated from their baby, and they do not want you to feed their baby. They typically will also say they won't even get a good night's sleep because they're just worried and anxious the whole time. They're a new mom. They're just wondering how their babies are doing. It's wonderful of you to want to help them in that way, but it usually is not the thing that they want you to do to help them. The one that new mothers hate really bad is when you say you're going to spoil the baby if you never put him down. Sometimes they need to cry themselves to sleep, otherwise they will never learn how to put themselves to sleep. Well, the research has shown loud and clear that you cannot spoil a newborn by holding them too much. Not only that, it is the biological norm for babies to want to be held close to their mom, to their skin, and to touch and smell them. They're going to go crazy if you say those few things I just mentioned. Let's talk about other ways you can best support the breastfeeding mother. What you can do is ask her to tell you what breastfeeding book she is reading, and perhaps she can let you borrow it when she's done. She'll be happy to know that you care enough to learn or refresh your memory about early newborn breastfeeding. And this is great because it will give you insight as to what she's learning, and it will help you to better understand how to support her in the early days of breastfeeding. While you're chatting with her about breastfeeding books, tell her that you would love to support her with breastfeeding. In the course of your conversation, you can just say, I breastfed quite a long time ago, and perhaps things have changed. If you ever have any questions, feel free to ask me, and perhaps I can help you. This way, you're letting her know that you're available to talk to, and yet you're not sharing unsolicited advice, just telling her any stories that she is not wanting to hear at the time and place. You've given her an opportunity to say, oh, I would love to hear about your early newborn breastfeeding days. Or this gives her an opportunity to know that when her baby, after her baby is born, that she is free to ask you questions, and she doesn't have to worry that you're going to inundate her with your own breastfeeding stories. You know, also, if the opportunity arises, I can't help but suggest this. Ask her if she would like a gift certificate to an IVCLC, so she has a place to go after the baby is born to ask all of her breastfeeding questions and gain support from an expert. This also lets her know that you care about the breastfeeding relationship and lets her know that she can ask you for help. You're acknowledging that you don't have all the answers and are not going to be constantly telling her what to do. Walking on eggshells? Perhaps. But remember what it was like for you. Go back to your journal and bring up those memories. You may forget that you were pretty thin-skinned when it came to people advising you or telling you what to do with your first baby. Some key points that you will want to remember in helping support the breastfeeding mom. Breastfeeding happens frequently. Their tummies are small, and the breast milk is absorbed in their system in 2 or 3 hours and sometimes less. Their little tummies in the early days is the size of a small marble, which means that she's going to be feeding frequently. Since breastfed babies who are nursing well transfer milk in a beautiful suck, swallow, breathe rhythm, it's normal for them to take 35 to 45 minutes sometimes to get a good feeding between both sides. The new mother, she's already exhausted, and the last thing she needs to hear you say is what? Are you feeding the baby again? So refrain from asking her that. In the beginning, new mothers want to offer and encourage their babies to feed from both sides, as this is how they build their supply. The more frequently and efficiently the baby feeds, the more milk she will make. Talk to her about what she has learned about how to tell when the baby is getting enough milk and breastfeeding is going well. This will help you. Learn the signs about how to tell when a baby isn't getting enough and how to know to reach out for help. Help her build confidence while she experiments with what to do to ways to how to calm a fussy baby, how the baby likes to be held, to be burped. I am frequently asked by moms, how do I burp her? How do I calm her down? They're looking for specific information. I offer a few suggestions while I tell them what really is the truth, that newborn parenting is all about your learning about your baby and experimenting. Don't be afraid to try and experiment. Try different ways of holding your baby, different ways to try and calm them down, to burp them. And expect this new job to take time to figure out what works best. It's just like any other new job, I tell moms. You can know so much going in, you could have read the books, but once you're on the job, you're constantly learning, experimenting, and eventually you find what works best for you and your baby. And also, enjoy watching the mother's and her baby's relationship develop. Tell her she is doing a great job. Studies have shown that mothers do best when breastfeeding when they have the support of their significant other, their baby's physician, and close family members. That's you, grandparents. Be a good listener for her. Praise, support, and encouragement. That goes a long way to filling your daughter or daughter-in-law's heart so she can, in turn, give her full heart to your new grandbaby. Build up her confidence without critical or judgmental comments. I hope that you've learned some really good tips and practical information from today's show on how to best support the new mother and how to best support her in the early days of breastfeeding. We have a new show, Breastfeeding Bites, next week, but until then, bye-bye. This is Lori Jill Isenstadt saying thank you for watching today's show. And if you like the show and want to make sure you don't miss another one, just press that subscribe button below. And also, anybody who knows me knows that my mantra is, don't let All About Breastfeeding be your best kept secret. Please like the button below and share this show with every pregnant and new mother that you know that may be interested in anything related to breastfeeding. You can also go to allaboutbreastfeeding.biz, and there you will find lots more information about myself, the services that I provide, and you will also get the whole library, all free, of all the shows, the 120 guests that I've interviewed about all subjects related to breastfeeding. That's at allaboutbreastfeeding.biz. And the last thing is my gift to you. If you go to allaboutbreastfeeding.biz/7secrets, you will get my handout on the 7 secrets to breast pumping. See you on the next show.